in pursuit of health and wisdom. Sapio with Buck Joffrey.
Welcome back to Sapio with Buck Joffrey. This is Buck Joffrey, and today my guest is Jim Donnelly. He's the co-founder and CEO of Humanaut Health. He's also an author and keynote speaker as well. Humanaut Health is a premium clinic for health optimization, longevity medicine that helps members live with more joy and less disease, discomfort, and uncertainty as they age. He's also the author of Restore, the life-changing power of right-away wellness. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Obviously, the whole space of longevity, of wellness and stuff is turned into an enormous space in terms of, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. People are all over this stuff right now, and that's a good thing. The bad thing is that you see a lot of charlatan stuff out there. You see a lot of little things popping up, sort of capitalizing on the word longevity or some of the interest. How are you guys different at Humanaut?
I learned a lot in my time in Restore. So at Restore, we created this model of 10 wellness and medical modalities under one roof. And the idea was that you would come in and these things would help you get on a good sort of dynamic. And the dynamic was the more you did, the better you felt, and the better you felt, the more you did. And within each of those modalities, there was, some science associated with it, and there were other things associated with it that made people feel good about doing it. And so sometimes when I get asked these questions, someone says, well, you're the guys who started getting everyone to do cryotherapy, and people are jumping right to cryotherapy thinking that's going to solve their problems. That's actually not the way we think about it. So at Humanaut, the way we think about it is there's like these very foundational things. You have to take care of your nutrition, your exercise, your sleep, your stress, your cognitive health. And so before you do that, all the other bells and whistles don't matter. And so what you're trying to do is help people with that, number one. Help people with things that are going to keep them on a good path. And a lot of the things, for instance, that you do at Restore, like cryotherapy, help them because it reduces pain, it gives them the energy they need. And so anything that can kind of create tailwinds behind you to get you in a good pattern is something that's super important and super positive in this dynamic. And then you focus on the foundational things. Once you get the foundation fixed, then you can focus on some of the cooler things in the quote unquote longevity space.
So when you talk, we're talking primarily about your previous company, Restore, right now. Is that right?
Yeah, they think of them as Restore as this sort of foundational wellness sort of track, like cold, heat, light, pressure. Those are foundational things. They're really good for you, and they give you the energy that you need. They reduce pain and all those sort of things. Those are great. Humanaut Health is much more medical, much more clinical. It is a full-blown medical clinic. It is very different than Restore. Restore is sort of a little bit of tailwinds, momentum. Humanaut Health is deep medical, clinical environment.
Okay. If you go into Humanaut, what is that experience like? What are you doing there?
Yeah, so at Humanaut, it's a very deep dive into what's happening with your body. So we'll do 100 blood panels. We'll do a variety of scans, everything from a DEXA scan up to a full body MRI. We'll do epigenetic and genetic testing. We'll connect to your wearable device so we see your activity and sleep and all of those sort of things. Long story short, we get all the data about you that we need to understand what's happening with you. Then we put that in a health dashboard, and because it's so much data, it's overwhelming, so we curate it for you. And we get it to a place where you can see the most important things you should be focused on. So we get it to what we call a focus 3. And then we create personalized protocols around the situation you're dealing with to move you in a good direction. And we make sure we address fitness, nutrition, sleep, stress, and cognitive health. Because if you don't address all of those things, you're not addressing health in a holistic way. Once we get you going down a good path, then we can get even more specific. Then we can take on some of the bigger societal issues like sexual health, huge problem, metabolic health. Obviously, we've got an obesity, diabetes problem in society. Menopause for women, andropause for men. Women's hormones are very complicated and it's really tough to fix them. And there's been a lot of misinformation about hormones. We're fixing that. Joint pain. Pain and joint pain is one of the biggest limiters to people's health. And then finally, health span. And health span is kind of a byproduct of everything before that. In our world, there is no magic pill or magic button for health span. Health span is being as healthy as you can every day, day after day. And so whatever you need to do that, do it. And then health span takes care of itself. It's not this separate thing that you take a pill for and suddenly your health span is better.
Who are the players involved in this? Obviously, you've talked about a lot of the, ultimately the pillars of health. I mean, you're talking about diet, you're talking about exercise and sleep, those types of things. Part of the whole concept of personalized medicine is that it is personalized and that you can't definitely manufacture that and just deliver it in a can. So, who are the team members? What kind of qualifications do they have to go into this?
Yeah, I'll add one more layer to it. So I kind of laid out the foundation, but there are a few things that you have to have in order to make a difference. Number one, you have to have the ability to instigate behavior change. And so if you say the words and tell people what to do, but you also don't help them with behavior change, it's all worthless. And so we have a very rich coaching platform that is used to help people with behavior change along the way, number one. Number two, you have to have the tools in your toolkit to do it. So I mentioned sort of the foundational things that we do, but what I didn't mention is we help with hormones, we help with peptides, exogenous molecules, medications, stem cells, these tools in your toolkit. So then to answer your question, if you're going to have that toolkit, you have to have the resources to credibly deliver that. And so we have two sides to our business. We have the corporate side, and those are the business people that are putting everything in place to make it work. And then you have a separate entity that's not owned by the corporate side, that is the medical organization. And in the medical organization, you have world-leading experts in stem cells, world-leading experts in sexual health, hormones. And so these are folks that have been practicing these things for dozens of years. And they have a pedigree, they have experience, they have a following because they've been doing this for a while, and they have years and years of data that they can point to, and they've obviously studied all the latest and greatest things. And so we have those folks in their specialty areas on the medical side. And then above them, we have an advisory board. And we have an advisory board of some of the who's who in the world of health and wellness.
So who's on that board?
So, an example would be a guy like Dr. Michael Frederickson. He runs the sort of longevity practice at Stanford. He is an orthopedic surgeon by training. He works with lifestyle medicine and other things. He has a group, and he is an expert in health span as an extension of that. You've got guys like Dr. David Katz, who ran the nutrition program at Yale. You've got folks like Dr. Campanile, who is a cardiologist that has been in the sort of longevity health span business for quite some time. So these are all folks with really great pedigree,
sure,
and years of experience.
No, when I go there as a patient, if I'm going in and who am I seeing?
So it depends on the clinic. At each clinic, you will have a medical team that is in the clinic. There will be a nurse practitioner who has been trained by all of the larger medical team. And then you will have a functional medicine, integrative medicine doctor that is also assigned to the people that are signing up for that sort of thing in the clinic.
So an MD or DO?
An MD. So
okay.
An example, if you came into the Austin clinic or the Dallas clinic, a doctor, Dr. Ernie Navarro, Dr. Ernie Navarro was at a longevity practice for many years. Prior to that, he was an emergency room doctor. He has been doing this for quite a long time. He has moved out of the quote unquote traditional, emergency room practice into the longevity space. And so he's been trained for years on how to do this. He's been running a practice for years. And so he's a guy that's going to be able to connect all the dots for you on both what typically people would call the traditional side, and then on the wellness side, the preventative, proactive side, pulling all those pieces together for you. And then behind him and the nurse practitioner in that individual clinic, you've got a larger medical team that is addressing all the things you need to know around training, addressing all the things you need to know around what's the latest and greatest type of thing in this space. And then above them, you have a medical advisory board that are being pulled from the top institutions in the country to make sure that you're doing everything in a safe way, you're doing things in an evidence-informed way, you're not doing things that are faddish or the hot topic of the day. You're doing real medicine. And so we are doing things, moving people's health in a pretty dramatic way. And so that's a team. Now, contrast that to what you typically find in this space. What you typically find in this space is a clinic. That clinic has a doctor. It is almost like a cult of personality. That doctor is a good doctor, and they go out and they get a couple hundred patients. Those patients come to him or her, and they get treated. Now, the problem with that is that's kind of their ecosystem. They don't have a team that they have various types of expertise constantly providing input. They don't have an advisory board of the best and brightest of the folks at the institutions like Stanford and Harvard and places like that, constantly saying this is what is the latest and greatest. They don't have the technology stack to provide a health dashboard, to create what we call a focus 3, so you're focused on the most important thing. A constant system of gathering data from you, every quarter doing blood tests, you're constantly looking at your wearable data and all those sort of things. So it's just a very different thing. You can get good medical practice from a one-off clinic, but it just does not have all.
Well, so the one thing is that we have to put this into context of what it is that you're trying to do. I mean, obviously you're not, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you guys see yourselves as as a primary care office. If somebody's sick, you're not going to go there. So you're still going to have your own doctor separately. And so you're looking at this as sort of an ancillary system that, people can utilize for health optimization that'll work with a primary care doctor.
Absolutely. And I'll say one thing about that. Primary care, the words, they used to mean something very different. The original sort of thought behind your primary care doctor is that was the person that you would go to, and they would consult on all the things that would keep you from getting sick, get you well as soon as possible. The reality of it, though, primary care doctors have almost been reduced to super quick interactions, definitely not having a holistic view of you, and not being able to do the preventative things because they're not really compensated for that, paid for that, and they don't have the time to do it. On the flip side of that, you've got functional medicine, integrative medicine. Same thing, like the definitions of that have become a little funky. That can be someone who's kind of way out there doing lots of alternative stuff, or the sort of more narrow interpretation of that, someone who is looking at you holistically and knows all the different levers to pull. And so we are very, first of all, complementary of the traditional system. We're not trying to replace certain things. But what we do is I would say that anyone who comes to a Humanaut, the number of times they would have to interact with their primary care physician would go down exponentially because we are making them healthier. We are keeping them in a preventative, proactive way as healthy and vibrant as possible.
So you talk a little bit about wearables and that sort of thing. So a lot of these things add up, right? I wear an Aura ring. I've done full full body MRI. I have an Apple Watch. I have, I have a million things going on, but it's not cheap. So when you join a program like yours, what do you just typically ask people, hey, you need to get this, you need to get that, or a lot of that is just provided as part of the program? How does it work? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so we would provide all the things that you need as part of the program. We would make sure you have the right wearable device, and at some of the membership levels, we would provide the right wearable device. And here's what I'll say about a lot of that stuff. People have a lot of information. What they don't have is a lot of guidance in a way that makes the information relevant for you. And so I would take your Oura Ring, for instance. You might wear an Oura Ring every day. It almost becomes wallpaper because the data kind of looks the same day by day by day, and you just sort of tune it out because no one is telling you exactly what it means and how you should connect it to something else. And so just because you have data doesn't mean you have a plan, and just because you have a plan doesn't mean you're going to do it. And so you got to connect all those pieces. You got to aggregate the data. You got to curate it. You've got to edit it down and make it understandable. You've got to translate it into protocols. You've got to attach it to coaching so the behavior change can happen. And so your logical question is, well, that's a lot. And so that's why we have different levels. That's why we have a technology stack that helps make this easier to do. That's why you do on some level have some AI enablement so that certain things can be organized more quickly than if you were doing it all manually. And so it's a bigger system than just manual intervention, which is the way doctors typically have had to do it.
Got it. So do you have a sense of, I people are probably wondering, so you say you have different levels, like what kinds of costs can people expect if they're potentially interested in something like this?
Yeah, so order of magnitude, if you thought about it in 3 levels. So think about it at a level that's around $200 a month. At that level, you're going to get your blood panels done every quarter. You're going to have your scans done, certainly things like a DEXA scan done on a very regular basis. To the degree that we find something that needs more investigation, you then sort of go to the MRI and higher level scan. Anything that needs to be monitored and rechecked, you're going to get that data every quarter. Mm-hmm. Your wearable data is also going to be monitored 100% of the time. And so anytime we see a deviation, we're going to make sure we're proactively telling you what you should be doing to address that. You're going to get a plan, and that plan is going to go pretty deep because we've got so much data on you. Now, that level is mostly a self-directed level. Like, you are given all the information, it's synthesized, it's updated, but you are not working with a coach as much as you would at the next level. So the next level up, let's say that's $500. That is a level where you're getting all of that. By the way, you're also getting in-clinic services. So you're getting services in the clinic, whether those are things like shockwave for sexual health, whether those are things like PEMF. There's a series of in-clinic services that you're getting. But at this next level, the big difference between level 1 and level 2 is the amount of coaching. So that second level is, I get all the information, I get to go into the clinic and do services, but I need a coach. I need someone that is going to help me so that I do actually lose the weight. I do actually change my behavior around fitness and those sort of things. Some people can do it in a self-directed way, some people can't. And then you have a third level, and the third level is almost like, think of it as concierge functional medicine. You have a very regular interaction with the medical staff. You have an even higher level of diagnostics. You have unlimited coaching. You have everything you need on a personalized concierge level. That's typically out in the world. That's what you see rich people paying $100,000 a year for. That is not accessible to the vast majority of the people in the world. We are doing it for a third of the price that it is typically charged at now. And now the goal is continue to scale. Scale brings the ability to do all kinds of things. So when you're one clinic, you will never scale and you will never have the opportunity to disrupt that. We'll open hundreds of clinics. And with hundreds of clinics and a great technology stack and all the other things, you can start to optimize what this costs. And over time, you can start to give it to more and more people. You can make it more accessible. But without that scaling, it would be very hard to reduce the cost and the price to people.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm still trying to figure out, like when you say like $200 a month, I mean, you know, a full body MRI, I mean, is typically going to be about $2,500 right there. Is that?
But that's what the insurance reimbursement is. That's certainly not what the cash pay price for those things are.
Oh, well, well, there is, I've done them. So here, and that's what the cost is, at least in Los Angeles with one of the major companies for a full body MRI. But that's neither here nor there. So you,
on the basic level, the $200 level, that is not including your full body MRI as a default thing.
Right.
Including all of your blood diagnostics,
Mm-hmm.
genetic testing, your basic scans, to the degree that we find anything
Mm-hmm.
there that warrants a full body MRI, we would then give you a certain number of credits toward that.
Mm-hmm.
You would pay for your full body MRI. As you get higher and higher into the memberships do include the full body MRI. And so it's just a matter of which level you are at.
Right.
But I would say typically most people walking around today do not have regular access to the data from their blood panels.
Yeah.
Vast majority of people. And the analogy I always use is people know more about the chemistry of their pool than they know about the chemistry of their body.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to be healthy if you don't understand the data around your body and then know what you have to focus on.
Yeah. Well, I certainly don't disagree on that. Well, Jim, this has been great. Tell us, so if people are interested, are you all over the country now with Humanaut?
Yeah, Humanaut opens their first clinic in Austin in August, late August. We open 4 more clinics around the country this year, and then we'll open 100 clinics over the next 3 years. So over the next 3 years, you'll see a Humanaut near you. Right now, we are treating a certain number of patients, but that'll continue to ramp up. But our big grand opening is in, the end of August, beginning of September in Austin, Texas. And then similar to the way we rolled out Restore across the country, we'll roll out Humanaut across the country.
Got it.
And you go to humanauthealth.com and you can find out more information.
Wonderful. Well, thanks, Jim. I do appreciate your time and good luck on the venture.
I thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Sapio with Buck Joffrey. A quick reminder that while I am, in fact, a surgeon, nothing I say should be construed as medical advice. Now, make sure to include your physician in any medical decisions you make. And also, if you're enjoying the show, please make sure to show your support with a like, share, or subscribe. Until next time, this is Buck Joffrey for Sapio with Buck Joffrey.